All things Mavs.
Ugh. Hey Mavs fans, you're tuned in to another edition of the All Things Mavs podcast, fresh off the 134 to 131 loss against the Portland Trail Blazers. Man, it was painful. It was a painful loss. I'm your host, Jimmy Crowther, as always, going to break it all down for you. How it happened, what happened, who happened, a.k.a. the refs, the amount of whistles we heard. Good Lord almighty. Was it? Listen, before I really get into it, I just got to acknowledge, number one, that was an incredible game. Even though the Mavs lost, even though the Dallas Mavericks lost it, that was an absolutely incredible game. But the story of the night, Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard had 61 points. He went 18 of 18 from the free throw line. He scored 9 of 17, shot 9 of 17 from beyond the three-point arc, 17 of 32 from the field, along with 8 assists and 5 rebounds. Look, no matter how you look at it, whether you thought it was the refs, which we'll get into, we will definitely get into the officiating, whether you thought it was the Mavs, whether you thought it was something else, you got to make somebody else beat you eventually, and Damian Lillard was just not going to be beat tonight, and he wasn't beat. So let's break it all down. I'm gonna break down the fourth quarter because that's where everything happened. Look, the Mavs went down early. Mavs went down by as many as 15, I believe, in the first half, and then they open up the fourth quarter on an 11-1 run when Michael Kidd-Gilchrist checks in the game, starts the second half, shuts down Carmelo Anthony like 4 possessions in a row, a.k.a. MKG deserves all of Justin Jackson's minutes, and then. Listen, the fourth quarter, it just went back and forth until Damian Lillard finally had enough and he put the Mavs to sleep, but so did the officials. And the last, before I get more into the box score, into the stats and break down more of what happened and what it means for the Mavs, let's just break down those last couple plays. The Mavs have the ball. I mean, the back and forth was something else in that fourth quarter. But the final 2 minutes is where all the action happened. I'm going to look up the play-by-play here as we get into it. But really, the play that decided it was when Kristaps Porzingis fouled out. And Kristaps Porzingis fouled out after an incredible game. KP had an amazing game, and I'll get to his stats here in just a little bit. But he fouls out with 1:18 remaining. He gets called for an offensive foul down low that he pulled Gary Trent Jr. down when he backed into Gary Trent Jr. and Gary Trent Jr. and Kristaps Porzingis go crashing to the floor. Offensive foul gets called. That's his 6th foul in the fourth quarter with 1:18 left. The Mavs challenge it. Even after looking at it, the officials deem that it is an offensive foul when clearly Gary Trent Jr. is the one pulling his arm down. So I'm sure we'll get the 2-minute report. Maybe you're listening to this and you already have heard the 2-minute report or you read it and you saw that it wasn't a foul because I don't believe that was a foul on Kristaps Porzingis. I think that was terrible. At that point in the game was tied. And then the Trailblazers go down. Hassan Whiteside dunks it. They go up 132 to 130. That's 59 seconds. Free throws, 40 seconds left. Luka Doncic goes 1 of 2 at the free throw line. Makes it a 1-point game, 132 to 131. Dame misses a 3-pointer. Mavs get the rebound. And then they go down, and that is when, Dame misses that 3-pointer, and then the Mavs go down. Luka finds a cutting Trey Burke to the back side of the basket, backdoor cut, a perfect cut. He gets the ball, but then sees Dorian Finney-Smith wide open in the corner, looks to him, drives toward him, passes the ball, dumps it off to Dorian Finney-Smith in the corner, but then bumps into Damian Lillard so lightly. Like, so light that it probably wouldn't have even hurt my small Pomeranian dog that I do have. Bumps him ever so lightly. Damian Lillard goes crashing to the ground in dramatic fashion. Mavs call an offensive foul. Dorian Finney-Smith makes the 3, but it's waved off because of the offensive foul. Trailblazers go down. They shoot free throws. And the Mavs get one final shot. And I actually didn't mind the shot. It was a Tim Hardaway Jr. in the corner. I think it was a good play, a very well-drawn play. Tim Hardaway Jr. just didn't take his time taking it, but that's not really what lost the game. There were a lot of other factors that we're going to get into. So, going to listen to this quick ad break, and then we're going to break down the game and break down some playoff implications for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, again, it was such a fun game. Offensive firepower, no one could be stopped. The Mavericks box score, let's run through it real fast. Kristaps Porzingis has 36 points, 6 rebounds, 2 blocked shots, but he fouls out with that minute remaining on a terrible foul call with 36 minutes played. Your next leading scorer is Luka Doncic, who really and truthfully didn't have a great game by Luka's standards. He had 25 points, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds, but he also had 6 turnovers, which is way too many for my liking. However, 5 of those turnovers came in the first half, so he really scaled it back in the second half. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 24 points, 9 of 9 from the free throw line, made 3 of 8 from 3. He also went 6 of 11 from the field. He had a few nice mid-range jumpers as well. Dorian Finney-Smith had 15 points on 6 of 8 shooting. It should have been 7 of 9 shooting, as he should have made that final 3, or counted that final 3 actually, which would have put the Mavs ahead. But he was a +9 in the box score, the best plus-minus on the team. He also had 4 rebounds, 4 fouls in tonight's game. Trey Burke had 12 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 of 4 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 4 of 9 from the field. Great game from Trey Burke as he got the start in place of, and that's something I didn't even mention in the beginning, Seth Curry wasn't even playing in this game. Had he played in this game, maybe the Mavs would have shot it better in the first half. I don't know. Who's to say? I'm not going to really count that as a reason the Mavs lost this game. Maxi Kleber, 12 points, -10 in the box score, but that didn't really matter. He played amazing. 4 rebounds, 2 steals. He really was a jolt of energy into this Mavs team, especially after getting a couple technical foul and really got Hassan Whiteside into it. I love the way Maxi played tonight. He played like he was on fire. After that, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, 2 points. Justin Jackson, 2 points. Boban Marjanovic, 2 points. DeLon Wright had 1 point, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. Let's talk about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist for a minute, because he comes in the third quarter and is the difference maker on the defensive end. I think he should have gotten some more minutes in the fourth, but not really worried about that. Nobody was stopping anybody. It didn't even matter at that point. But MKG, some great defensive minutes. He only played 7 minutes, but those were some crucial minutes to keep the Mavs, really get the Mavs back into the game. So good game for him. I think he's officially moved above Justin Jackson in the rotation, at least in my eyes, hopefully in Rick Carlisle's eyes as well. Look, the offense was good in the fourth quarter. I mean, this was the best crunch time quarter the Mavs have played outside of that Bucks game inside the bubble. Really, the crunch time was perfect. The only thing that was poor, the officiating. I mean, terrible call on Kristaps Porzingis offensively. I think that foul call where Trey Burke drove into Damian Lillard and they called the offensive foul. Some will say it's a foul. Maybe it is a foul, but I don't think it's one you call at such a crucial point in the game. It was so ticky-tacky. It was so light. I hated the foul call. Again, I'm a little bit biased. I get that. But, I don't think you're going to see it in the 2-minute report. I believe it was probably the right call. I just don't think you call that at this point in the game. I just don't think you can. It's so light, and Damian Lillard just sold it. But apparently, and unfortunately, selling the fouls is a part of today's game. And Damian Lillard did it well all night long. I think he got more calls than James Harden gets on an average basis, but he was creating the contact better with all that being said. Again, and a guy has 61 points, 18 free throws, and shoots 9 of 17 from the free throw line, from the 3-point line. There's really not much you can say about that. Oh, Lord. So we just got this from Trey Burke. Trey Burke, this tweet comes from Brad Townsend. This tweet just came across as I'm recording this podcast. On the Burke play, this is actually from Rick Carlisle. Carlisle says Mavs assistant with iPads, and Carlisle says Mavs assistants with iPads said it looked like a flop on the replay. And this is what Carlisle said, quote, maybe Lillard will get fined for a flop. I don't know. Says great players like Lillard have ability to create breaks like that for themselves. So Rick's with us. Rick agrees it was a flop, and I think it was too. If he had not fallen over, it wouldn't have been a foul call. And he didn't have to fall over because, trust me, I don't think Trey Burke's that strong. Sorry, Trey Burke. I love you, buddy. I think you're great. I think you're the best addition to this bubble team. But that wasn't a foul, and you're not that strong. So poor call. It is what it is. Listen, even if the Mavs had won this game, Utah would have to lose out, and Oklahoma City would have had to lose out for us to move up. Is it frustrating that we lost? Absolutely, it's frustrating that we lost. Would I have loved to have this game as a confidence booster going into the playoffs? Absolutely, I would have. But in the grand scheme of things, does it matter that much for us? No, it doesn't. And if Seth Curry had played, could this have been a different story? Sure, but I'm not going to bank on that either. So it's frustrating. Mavs shouldn't have lost. They should have won this game. But also, Damian Lillard, how about that 3 he made from 40 feet out where it bounced off the back of the rim, went 30 feet up in the air, and bounced back in? We haven't seen a shot like that ever. I'm 22 years old. God, I forget how old I am sometimes. I'm 22 years old, and I've never seen a shot like that go in, ever, in my life. So, not even the Kawhi Leonard one over the Sixers last year. Not even that one. So, yeah, it's frustrating, but I'm not going to get that worked up about this game because when it comes to playoff standings, it doesn't matter that much, but I will get worked up over the fact that the officials sucked. They were terrible. Absolutely terrible in crunch time. Most of the game, it was pretty evenly called. I'll admit it, the Mavs got some calls, the Trailblazers got some calls. But when it came to the final 2 minutes, Portland got all the calls. And man, it was so frustrating. So we're going to take one more ad break before we get to the end of this podcast. And then we're going to break down the playoff implications and what needs to happen for the Mavs to avoid the Los Angeles Clippers. All right, so now with the loss, the Mavs are locked into the 7th seed. I'm kind of surprised I haven't mentioned that earlier in the podcast, which means they will play whoever is the 2nd seed in the Western Conference. And Dalton Trigg outlined it perfectly in a tweet, and I'm going to read it off word for word. The only 2 playoff scenarios remaining for the Mavs. A, they play the Denver Nuggets if Denver wins out, meaning they have to beat the Los Angeles Clippers and the Toronto Raptors. And the Los Angeles Clippers lose out, which means they lose to Denver, who they're obviously Denver and LA playing, and they lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Denver has to beat the Clippers and the Toronto Raptors, and the Clippers have to lose to the Nuggets and to the Oklahoma City Thunder in order for the Mavs to play the Nuggets instead of the Clippers. The Mavs will play the Clippers if Denver loses one of their next 2 games, or if the Clippers win one of their next 2 games. So it's confusing, but it's a lot less complicated than it was prior to this game where it was, if the Mavs win, great, but also these 2 teams have to lose out and yada, yada, yada. The Mavs are locked into 7. That means they're playing whoever is number 2. So now you cheer for the Denver Nuggets and you cheer against the Los Angeles Clippers. And the Mavs have one more game remaining on the schedule against the Phoenix Suns, which will be an afternoon game. It'll be nationally televised on, I believe, Thursday afternoon. So Thursday, August 13th. That will be broadcasted at 3 o'clock p.m. Central Time on TNT. And that'll be the Mavs' final game before the playoffs. But in all reality, now that the Mavs are locked into 7, they have nothing to play for. I think Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic will sit that game out. I wouldn't expect those guys to play. I wouldn't even expect Tim Hardaway Jr. or Seth Curry to play. I think most of the starters will sit, and we'll get a lot of MKG minutes. We'll get a lot of Josh Reeves, Antonius Cleveland, some Boban, some more JJ Barea. So listen, guys. It was a fun game, but it was a frustrating game. Would I have loved to win? Yes. Not that worked up about this, however, because when it comes to playoff standings, it didn't really matter all that much. It hinges on other teams, not so much just what we can do. But we should have won. Definitely should have won. Definitely should have won. Shouldn't have let Dame go off for 61. Shouldn't have gotten screwed over by the referees. But it happens, and we're just going to have to expect those kind of calls some nights to not go our way. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Update on the score guesses when it comes to receiving the $30 from me. Nobody got it this week once again, so we are, 0 for 6 now, I believe, on this thing. So Mavs play the Phoenix Suns Thursday afternoon. If you can guess the correct score, I'll give you 30. Actually, I'm going to up the ante because at this point, who knows what that score is going to be with everybody sitting out. So if you can guess that correct score, I'll give you $35. I'll Venmo it to you. If you can guess the correct score of the Suns and Mavs game and the correct winner, got to get that, of course, as always. If you guys are what are we going to call this? We got to call this the end of the guys and girls that stick to the end of the podcast that stay all the way through. What are we going to call you guys? The end of the pod squad? End of pod squad. If you're an end of pod squad, meaning you made it all the way to this final last minute of the podcast, type that hashtag #GoMavs down in the comment section. I'll keep interacting with you guys there, interacting with you guys on Twitter as always. Appreciate you guys following and listening to me after every game. We're going to have some more videos coming soon, especially with a little break in games before the playoffs. So there'll be some more trade rumors, or not so much rumors, but some trade things, some draft things, some free agency things going up on the channel very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for listening, guys. As always, go Mavs, baby.